Hey everyone, this is Man and Machine Podcast Xtreme, the first and probably only Centurions themed podcast. I'm Yuri, and this is my co-host, Mark.
Yes, nice to meet all you fine people, although, this is the third time we're doing this, so we've probably met already. Well, nice to re-meet you then, at least virtually.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in again. And if you're new to the podcast, please take a look at our Facebook page or our YouTube page, which is going live this week. We're going to upload simultaneously all the episodes over there and have all the episodes available on the various podcast platforms like Google Podcast, Apple iTunes, Stitcher. So whichever your favorite platform is, just feel free to tune in every week. On the first episode, we discussed the show in general and the characters. On the second episode last week, we discussed the first group of weapon systems, mainly from Wave 1, which is probably the most accessible to people on eBay. There are several copies of, you name it, Fire Force, or any of the basic, weapon systems out there that are boxed. And you can even find many of these, for low prices on flea markets or, garage sales.
Yeah, and there you go with your Fire Force favoritism again. I'm going to have to register a complaint with the management.
Okay, I'm biased towards Jake, but since one of the listeners in our Facebook group mentioned that we should show some love to towards Ace as well, let's start today with the going into the unproduced, the rare, and the concept weapon systems. Let's start with Ace then, to please the Ace fan base. How about that, Mark?
Well, I would do that, except that I would rather start with the three that were actually produced but are somewhat rare, and then we can get into the unproduced ones.
Are you telling me that I offered the chance to have Ace shine and you're refusing that just because his weapon system was not produced?
Ace will get his chance. Every Centurion will get their chance on this episode.
All right. So let's then delve into the let's call them second wave assault weapon systems. And before Mark gives you guys a brief introduction of them, I'm just going to mention that these were produced in limited numbers and, are sometimes 2, 3, 4 times as expensive as some of the other weapon systems. However, there are multiple copies of them out there. And in a twist of fate, I guess, or, going with what happened to the first wave, Max's and Jake's second wave toy was produced, at least one for each, and unfortunately Ace didn't have his chance to shine.
He hit on Crystal one too many times.
Oh yeah, so he was called into the HR office to have that discussion, and unfortunately, even though he could keep his job, he couldn't get his new weapon system in toy form. Why don't we start with Max and his second wave weapon system?
Yes, Max got one called Seabat and the Masters of the Universe. No, seriously, it was just called Seabat. And, okay, so let me read from my 1994 article, because that's the easiest way for me to do research by ripping off my past self. Max's overwater pursuit vehicle takes its name from its design. The chest hydrofoil unit has 2 protrusions that resemble pointed ears, while the back-mounted bat wing thruster is shaped like, you guessed it, a bat's wings. Why? I have no idea. Okay, and I'd like to add something here that turns out that there is, I guess, an underwater animal named Seabat or something like that. So Kenner didn't just make that name up, they got it from somewhere. Naughty me. Anyway, so like Tidal Blast, which we discussed last week, Seabat has a chest-mounted thruster, which is powered by 2 rotating hydro turbines. The assault weapon systems Other components are a heat-seeking harpoon, a deep-sea scope, a depth charger, 6 non-launching Barracuda missiles, and 6 flexi-hose connectors, which are kind of brittle. So if you're lucky enough to have a Seabat, be careful with these hoses because they might break. Try to use a hairdryer on them or something. Oh, and I forgot to mention the chest pack, which has this cool oxygen unit that pulsates up and down instead of in and out the way that Tidal Blast does.
And I would actually concur. I did get a Seabat last year, and along with a swing shot. I was actually, I would say, lucky that I could still get them before the prices absolutely exploded. I think I've seen one of these toys go for $300-400, so that's exorbitant. And definitely in the case of Seabat, each toy has its own weakness, supposedly, that many fans struggle with, or many collectors struggle with. We'll talk about Swing Shot, but just to mention it as a footnote, the hoses for Seabat and the treads, the little rubber bands that go around the wheels, are the weaknesses for Swing Shot, and therefore not only are these toys rare, but also getting a complete one with unbroken hoses is a challenge. And I personally, I didn't actually connect mine. They are connected only with one of the pegs and are sticking out like a hedgehog's, little spikes, because I do not want to break these. If you really look into it, you might find some alternatives among, fan solutions. For example, some people in the group did use the method that Mark mentioned, where they used a hair dryer to kind of, or warm air to kind of make these flexible and make them not break, but kind of attach properly without any damage. Some people actually did cast new hoses using the old ones, and even though they are somewhat different in color, they kind of work out well for them. And this is not making illegal copies of toys. This is just just a way to save these little elements from breaking. And yeah, so definitely I would say that if you have a Seabat, be very careful with the hoses.
By the way, if there are any lawyers listening to this, please don't arrest me. I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
So yeah, if you're out there and you're a lawyer who specializes in tracking down fans through podcasts, definitely do not sue Mark, then don't sue me. But if you can get in touch with Hasbro to kind of revive the franchise, feel free to do so.
Yeah, if you're a lawyer and you actually know who owns the rights to Centurions, please let us know. A couple things about Seabat I wanted to mention real quick. They're taken from its entry at centurions.fandom.com, which are, okay, I'm just going to read this paragraph verbatim and see what you think of it. Ironically, two of Seabat's key propulsion features, the hydrofoils and the top-mounted screw propellers, are incompatible in real life. Hydrofoils operate by lifting marine vehicle even farther away from the surface of the water upon which it's traveling, thus reducing drag and increasing speed. However, were Seabat to attempt this feat, then the screw propellers will be lifted out of the water, rendering them incapable of imparting any significant momentum.
Well, Mark, what I say to that is, in the near future, probably they have solved this issue, even if it's physically impossible. You never know what they come up with. If they confuse man and machine, maybe they can, fight the, and conquer the laws of physics. You never know.
That would be nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I've read that the design of Seabat in the cartoon is a little different than in the toy, so maybe that has something to do with it. And also, one more thing from the wiki entry. Additionally, it is impossible to fully assemble the Seabat unit with all accessories attached. There are simply not enough plug receptacles.
Which is actually pretty cool that you got more than you could use, so you could alternate, the accessories. That's pretty cool, actually.
It's value for money, all right. So you want to move on to Swing Shot?
Yes, even though I'm a Jake fanboy, there's nothing else but to move on to Jake and Swing Shot. And so, Mark, please give our listeners a rundown of what Swing Shot is equipped with.
Okay, I'm going to rip myself off again. This overground, all-terrain fighting machine gives Jake the power to defy gravity. In the storyline, of course, not in real life. The backpack power unit features 2 working roto treads attached to treadmill arms that can be rotated 360 degrees. The treadmill arms can be positioned in any direction, allowing Jake to cling to the undersides of bridges and ledges while launching surprise attacks on Doc Terra from above. Slingshot also has a rotating howitzer, a rotating infrascope, and 2 armored mega blasters with removable trajectoid missiles. Unfortunately, the blasters were poorly engineered, at least on the particular slingshot I bought. I've never been able to make them stay attached to anything. Okay, and so you're saying people have problems with the treads, and this is where I had my problem with those big arm lasers that Jake has.
Mine, thank God, are pretty tight, and the treads that I had are kind of, they kind of stretched out, but they're intact, and I think there are no cracks. But yeah, I don't know if it's a lack of of quality check. Apparently, there are some quality issues with this figure because, as Mark said, his arm cannons are loose, and I would say that the treads have been made from a plastic that didn't really stand the test of time. So if you buy one of these, be very careful with attaching the treads, and again, if you're selling it or know someone who's selling it to you, be careful how it's being packaged, because I think even temperature might really wreak havoc with these treads. So with Swing Shot, yeah, it's one of those rare toys that were released in the show's second year, and like the wiki says, it's been produced in limited numbers. I don't know, Mark, were you able to purchase this in the store on clearance as with the other toys?
Yeah, actually, I found Seabat and Swing Shot at Toys R Us. I don't know if any other stores carried them, although they're not marked as being exclusives in the Kenner catalog or anywhere else that I've seen. I mean, if anyone knows of any store besides Toys R Us that carried Seabat or Swing Shot, please contact us.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about another exclusive. One of the Doom drones actually was exclusive.
A Sears exclusive, yeah, Traumatizer, but we will get to that in our next
episode.
That.
Yes. One other tidbit with for those technically inclined is that the roto treads on the figure are called Kegress tracks, and they are not Caterpillar tracks. This is a very special type of construction that you can find more info on online. So this one has one single flexible tread. Mark, did you mention the ability of this in the storyline to climb walls and climb ceilings?
Well, I mentioned that I could cling to ceilings, but I didn't mention that I could climb them. But I guess I could. It could do it in the storyline.
Yeah. So if these the toys actually, if you were lucky enough to get them with a box, they had various uses and various configurations of the weapon systems. And with Swing Shot, the default method of using it was Jake standing and the treads being next to his feet, and it was like a tank-like ground-based vehicle. But in the official images on the box, it also showed that it could climb walls and ceilings. Of course, the toy wasn't capable of this, but in the story, it was able to. I don't know if this actually happened in the cartoons. I can't remember.
There was. If I remember correctly, Swing Shot was featured in exactly one episode called Novice, which is about Klaus, the guy who designed the assault weapon systems, getting kidnapped by terror, and they have to save him. And it was basically a showcase for Slingshot.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think I'm checking Duke Nostalgia's page, and he has an interesting opinion, which is that Slingshot is an upgraded Fire Force with the stability of the detonator. With the treads, what do you think of that? Is it in your opinion a combination and an upgraded version of a Fire Force detonator combo?
It's certainly possible. I'd love to speak to any of the surviving Kenner designers who worked on Centurions to ask them about that, and pretty much anything having to do with the line.
Now I have a funny idea that once I get my hands on a detonator, I'm going to combine them and replace the detonator, feet with the swing shot treads to see how that combination would look. But
go for it and post pictures.
I will. So to not run out of time, let's continue. Let's mention the power pack as well.
This motorized gadget automatically powers the hero figure's chest drives and multi-assault weapon systems. Connect power pack to a weapon system. Wind it up by pulling the string attached to the end of the radar dish, hit the on-off switch, and watch as the weapon system rotates, pulsates, and launches missiles automatically. The power pack is supposed to work with, just gotta turn the page here, supposed to run on any assault weapon systems, but it won't work with Hornet's helicopter backpack, Skybolt's turbine backpack, or either half of Depth Charger. I've been told that the mechanisms of these toys would have been redesigned to be compatible with Power Pack if Centurions had continued. Yeah, this guy was like a Kenner employee. I don't know if I should give out his name, but yeah, that's pretty reliable information, I think.
So you're saying that these weapon systems would have received an upgrade or a second edition to accommodate the power pack?
I assume so, yeah, and that would have been great if the line had been that successful. Anyway, power pack is packaged with a sonar dish, which Kenner later reused for building Blaster's power tower, a triad missile, and an adapter that allows it to be used with or without the Centurion's hero figure. And it's actually a nifty little gadget, and it's fun to attach it to the various weapon systems and make him go automatically and hear the ratcheting noise that these things make. You'll go really fast, and it's a lot of fun if you can find it. And I know that this one was not a Toys R Us exclusive. I remember getting mine at the late lamented Kitty City. And also, Kenner apparently had plans to include it free with some of the weapon systems, including Seabat. And no, Seabat did not have a power pack with it. And I guess that a couple of the other unproduced items are supposed to have a free power pack. And who knows if that's what happened.
Good point, yeah. And I have a few tidbits to mention because this power pack is a really interesting beast. One is that with the power pack, as Mark mentioned, you could replace the figures with the and add the power pack instead to have these kind of drone-like automatized weapon systems. Power packs are actually, I think, pretty cheap on eBay compared to the other accessories. I got, I think, a carded one, an unopened one, a few years ago, and it wasn't too expensive. Another interesting feature is that if you look at the card on which the accessories are you can find a modified setup for detonator. It doesn't include detonator's legs, and it has the detonator missiles on his back pointing upwards, the splicer missiles, or at least one of them. So it's interesting how even the card shows a different layout of the weapons. Mark also, I think, has, or either you or someone had an alternate art for or an alternate design for the card. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I don't have the actual art, but I've seen photos of it. It was supposed to have a big yellow starburst that said adds more power, and Kenner wound up toning that down for the actual release, which, by the way, was the only Centurions toy made by Kenner that was sold on a card instead of in a box.
Mm-hmm. I actually wonder what kind of other special accessories like the power pack they would have released or they have thought of. Before we go on, in the Bible, do you have any notes regarding these three toys that we just discussed? Anything in the whether toy or story related?
Seabat is mentioned because it was in the cartoon. Swingshot was also in the cartoon, so I'm pretty sure it has a model sheet. The power pack. Well, there was a thing called a power pack that was featured in one episode, but it didn't resemble the actual power pack toy, so it's not in there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the power pack was probably more on Kenner's side than on Ruby Spears' side. Because they had more of a play value than a show value, I guess, or a story value.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know exactly what the relationship between Kenner and Ruby Spears was, but yeah, I mean, certainly the show was based on the toy line, so yeah, I mean, Kenner called the shots there.
Right. So did you manage to also buy a power pack back then?
Yes, I did. I got at the late lamented Kitty City.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the card back right now, of which I have a pretty detailed scan of, although I could just look at my own, and it says that it has Orbital Interceptor, Fire Force, and Tidal Blast. And it says that for Orbital Interceptor, it rotates the radar dish, I think. For Fire Force, it rotates the Gatling blaster, as seen in the show intro. And for Max Ray and Tidal Blast, it rotates the repulsor cannons.
Although, really, it'll rotate anything that you can stick in the chest drive. A note about Seabat and Swingshot, I have illustrations of both of them as part of the Writer's Guide, and they were both designed by a Kenner designer named Alton Takayasu, who's actually part of our Facebook group.
Yeah, so hint, it would be really great to invite Alton to join us for an episode, because I'm sure he would know a lot, even after so many years, about the design philosophies, what a toy designer is told when he's assigned a project. And so basically how a toy designer operates, and how brilliant toys like the Centurions were conceived, and how it went through a toy designer's mind.
I can't promise anything, but I'll do what I can.
Awesome. Let's hope, and let's move on, because we're behind schedule.
We're always behind schedule on this show.
That's true. I mean, we're less equipped with teleportation and weapons. We still live in the past compared to in the near future. So let's move on to the first of the unproduced toys that we're going to discuss, which is
Strato Strike. Yes, it's Ace's turn to shine. The Kenner catalog builds Ace's most diverse weapon assault system. Okay, they made some typos in the way my articles presented. That's one of them. As a combination supersonic jet plane and VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing. It's packed with action features. The two propellers rotate and pivot. The wings pop up. The canopy opens, and the dual stun missiles really shoot from pivoting launchers.
The fun thing about these weapon systems is that since a prototype photo exists, then we can say that it was produced. It's not what Hasbro, does nowadays to have
Kenner.
A computer. No, Hasbro. It's not what Hasbro does nowadays with its toys, where it just first shares, or even very close to when they start selling new Transformers toys, they just share 3D renders instead of the actual figure. Here, for the catalogs, they already have to have the toy, or at least a version of the toy. So we can definitely say that there is at least one Stratos Strike, if not more, out there hiding in someone's house.
Well, if they still exist. I mean, here's the thing. When Hasbro took over Kenner in 2000, they ordered a purge of everything having to do with certain toy lines that hadn't sold, and Centurions was one of them. So there are some items that we know still exist, but nothing we can confirm is being destroyed, because it's possible that Kenner employees and or collectors saved much, possibly all of the stuff that was scheduled for destruction. I certainly like to think so. I mean, just that we don't know what's out there in some vault somewhere until somebody decides to make their collection public.
Definitely. And I would say that, my personal opinion is that why wouldn't the designers have saved these items? I think they would have felt that it was a waste, to throw them away. But
yes, I certainly agree on that.
And Mark, do you have any further info for our listeners to, anything to say about this purge, or anything regarding the how these toys might or might have been destroyed?
No, except I've heard stuff about people going in Kenner's dumpsters during the purge and saving stuff. And if I remember correctly, some of the other lines that were affected included Beetlejuice, Police Academy, Silverhawks, basically anything that Hasbro wasn't going to keep around.
Huh. It was the dark ages before, serious, collecting became a thing, I guess. But yeah, so with Stratos Strike, what we can definitely say is that it had one of those. It was with Orbital Interceptor, one of those weapon systems where the default helmet was not used, and
it had its own canopy.
Yes. And in the cartoon, I even remember this scene when they are introducing these new weapon systems, and the Stratos Strike is shown in its assembled form without the pilot, as if it were a drone. But then again, I would assume that these weapon systems in the story are produced with its components, because if they're assembled together, they wouldn't have been compatible with the beaming device. So it's interesting that they introduced it in assembled without a pilot when the Centurions first saw it, but then of course it had to be, I guess, taken apart to fit the beaming device.
Well, yeah, and they gotta keep these things somewhere when they're not being used.
Right. So let's move on. Unless you have anything else to add?
Nope. It's also Auger time.
Okay, so it's time for Awesome Auger, which is Jake's unproduced, I don't know, 5th, 6th, 7th weapon system.
I think it was going to be number 6, and I'm actually proud of the first line I came up with from the article. This assault weapon system is boring, literally. Its gigantic, chest-mounted rotating drill lets Jake penetrate through such minor obstacles as the surface of the Earth. Its other awesome equipment includes a rotating sonar shredder, reciprocating tectonic blasters, spiked wheel treads, and a hard hat-like helmet complete with non-working light. As with Wild Weasel and Slingshot, Jake can wear Awesome Auger in a variety of positions. On the painting that would have gone on the front of the box, you see him sitting in it, and then there are other photos where you see him using it in standing and prone positions. So what can I say? Like all the unproduced weapon systems, it would have been a really cool toy, and it's sad that it never came out.
Absolutely. I think people really liked some aspects of the first wave of toys, and probably because of the popularity of Wild Weasel, they created this second toy that could be, could that Jake could use in a lying position as if it were an actual, vehicle. And yeah, so this toy, like Mark said, featured a special helmet, kind of like a more heavy duty version of Jake's helmet. And yeah, it's interesting that, and I will go there and say that Vic McCloud is probably Mark's favorite character that never made it on the show. And just as
he's my white whale, I'd love to learn more about him.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to learn more about him and any other unproduced or unused characters. But just as Vic was maybe supposed to be a space specialist, so that Ace would be only terrestrial air, and Vic would be the space guy. It's interesting that for Jake, for Ace it was space was the next frontier, and apparently for Jake it was underground with this huge mining rig or mining vehicle, or subterranean assault vehicle. And it's interesting if they also initially thought that this would go for like a subterranean specialist, or I don't know if this was actually meant for Jake.
Well, we see Jake using it in the TV show, so yeah, it was meant for Jake.
No, I mean when it comes to the concepts, initially, like on the drawing board.
Who knows?
Yeah, because we'll discuss, and I think we still have about 25 minutes, so we will still have time to discuss later on today the wall climbing toys, where in the art of these toys, and we'll discuss this in detail, we'll see exo frames and Centurions that never actually made it onto the show. So even for the draft drawings of these toys, unnamed Centurions were used. So who knows how many extra cast members would have been introduced in a third season. But now,
by the way, spoiler alert. Yeah, way to give away what we're going to be talking about later in the podcast. Always keep it in suspense.
Okay, true. Okay, but this was just a sneak preview, and now we go to our non-existent imaginary sponsor, which doesn't exist, unfortunately. So we'll continue with the next assault weapon system.
Yeah, I have one question for you, Yuri. Are you a fan of Fathom Fan?
I would say that even if it's Max's weapon system, I am a fan of the whole show, including every single detail of it. So I'm a big fan of Fathom Fan as well.
Okay, for this I'm going to be reading from what I wrote for the Centurions wiki rather than what I wrote for the article, because what I wrote for the wiki is better. Fathom Fan is one of the unreleased toys from the second year of the Centurions toy line. It was featured in later episodes of the TV series. In-universe, Fathom Fan is an assault weapon system from Xtreme. It's an airboat-like vehicle that skims along the surface of the water, powered by a large propeller backpack. Its weaponry includes chest-mounted lasers and 2 sea-skimming missiles that launch from the pontoons. And I think it's also supposed to have, like, the lasers might reciprocate like the freeze ray blasters from Detonator. I'm not exactly sure about that. Anyway, here's an important thing to know about Fathom Fan. Information on Fathom Fan is scarce. While it was used in the TV series, Kenner never included it in their dealer catalogs, and no artwork of the system outside its TV appearances has ever surfaced. If a complete Fathom Fan prototype ever existed, to date it has never been seen in public. However, some individual parts and molds are known to be in the possession of private collectors. So yeah, somebody has the chest pack and somebody has one of the pontoon/missile launchers.
Right.
And they're not painted or anything. They're just test shots. But it's just good that anything from Fathom Fan exists at all.
I find it interesting to play with the idea that there could be a project to basically reach out to all these people and try to to copy or mold these pieces and recreate the weapon system that probably never existed in
That would be awesome.
in toy form. And on the Duke Nostalgia page, actually, it's funny because the page he devoted or on his site to Max Ray is called Mystery of the Fathom Fan. And later in the article, he refers to the Fathom Fan not by its name, but by the name Sea Fan, which I didn't understand. And so basically, he also mentions that it's basically a hovercraft with pontoons, which allows Max to stand on. And there's like you said, the fan on the back. So apparently even, in the 90s, there was some information out there before Facebook and before all of this, but even this website didn't have photo evidence of the weapon system. And even the wiki was recently updated with some of this information.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, but anyway, Fathom Fan. I would not call Fathom Fan the hovercraft. I mean, like I said, it's in the article. It's an airboat based on those things that people use to travel along the water in the Everglades and similar swampy areas.
Yeah, I actually picture like a bayou type environment where like he, like full of crocodiles. I actually have to watch the show to see whether he uses it in such a situation or not. But one thing that popped into my mind, Mark, is that like with all these new elements introduced to the toy line, imagine the possibilities of combining these elements, not just the first wave of toys, but the second season of toys and the toys that we're going to talk about later. How many combinations, how many permutations would there be of these fantastic toys?
You're trying to make me cry, aren't you?
Well, maybe. Okay, before Mark reveals his soft side for these toys, let's move on to the next weapon system.
Okay, by the way, question for you. The three mission accessory packs, Aqua Blazer, Land Laser, and Aerosol, do we do them now or some other time?
Yes, please, let's do it.
Okay, once again, I'm quoting myself. One of Kenner's marketing plans for the second year was to release 3 box sets of mission accessories. Instead of being full-fledged assault weapon systems with moving parts, these are meant to add more flexibility to the existing systems and probably would have been sold at a low price point. Max's accessory set, Aqua Blazer, includes a deep-sea scope with non-working searchlight, 2 air hoses, sea mine, right and left control surfaces, 2 seismic missiles, a harpoon, and a coral missile that fits in the cruiser's hydro missile launcher. Yeah, that's the thing about these systems. They were all meant to augment primarily the basic weapon systems that you got with the figures. And by the way, none of them were ever on the TV show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe they were planned for season 3. My perspective on these accessory packs is that I think it's a really great idea that not only do they have value for the typical collector, they have value for the child who probably may have a limited budget. But if you have the basic figure, Max, you can just add this and have a cheap way to basically come up with a semi-new weapon system. But if you had parents who were able to afford multiple or all of the weapon systems, you could still find a great use for these accessory packs, and definitely because they have a different color scheme, they not only somewhat change the assigned figures color scheme, but they could have also been used as accessories to other characters. With Aqua Blazer, the colors are blue and black, which I think would go really well with Ace's color scheme and color palette. So even though these were marketed as unique to a specific character, I think you could just buy it for a different character, and I don't know why they didn't market it as a universal thing, and maybe pose it on the box art. I don't know, we haven't seen the box art, but maybe I don't think they intended this to be posed with Ace, but I think this would have been a great combination for Ace as well.
Well, possibly, yeah. I know that there were boxes designed for all three of the mission accessory packs. I used to have some of the artwork, had to sell it. Still regret that, but yeah, the fact that Aqua Blazer has a more subdued color scheme than Max's regular assault weapon systems means that maybe he'd use it for some kind of stealth assignment, which is an interesting possibility. But anyway, so you want to move on?
Yeah. Let's move on to the second accessory pack.
Yeah. Guess what? We got two accessory packs with rhyming names, Aqua Blazer and Land Laser. Okay, Jake's mission accessories consist of two missile racks with four generator missiles. Four generator missiles. Gotta stop slurring my words. A Terra lens mask. It's a thing that actually fits over his face, and by attaching to the shoulder parts of the exoframe, and I guess Max has a similar item as part of Aqua Blazer. Terra lens mask, two containment hoses, a triple blaster, and a land field missile that can be fired from Fire Force's plasma accelerator. And these were red, which goes with Jake's previous stuff, and gray. And also, this is one of the only mission accessories where you can parts of it have been seen in the wild, because somebody got one of the generator missiles and posted photos of it, I guess, in an attempt to sell it. Whether they did sell it or not, I don't know. But it's just good to know that something was salvaged from what would have been a fun toy.
Yeah, and it's funny that the name is so apt for this weapon system, because Jake is land, and he just got a bunch of lasers. At least, not that many lasers. But see, that's interesting, because it's called Land Laser, and there's only one laser weapon. There are four missiles, and the additional missile that would go into his bazooka on his back. I think it's great that they added a second projectile to it, but I don't know, Mark. What do you think? To me, when I look at the art, which by the way looks fabulous, those things that pop onto his mask look clunky. I'm skeptical about how these would have looked on the show. They kind of look like his face is blocked, so it just looks something that wouldn't have worked on the show, at least in this form.
Who knows? It's all speculation at this point. I mean, I wouldn't have minded having the chance to test it in real life. Anyway, did you have anything more to say about Land Laser?
The only thing is that it has the hoses that we first saw with Seabat, and I think Hasbro.
Okay, are these identical hoses or something kind of different?
I personally think they're the same mold, just with different colors. And when I look at Aqua Blazer, it also has the same hoses. But now that you mention it, I think they might be a bit different, because there's a little bump, thick area in the middle of Jake's hoses. So I'm on the fence about it. Okay.
Anyway, moving on. Errol Smith has toys in the attic. Errol Salt has toys on Ace McCloud. Ace's mission accessories set is made up of a finger-activated FSK bomb, and no, I don't know what that means, and bomb housing, two capillary hoses, two directional jets, two solar panels, a blaster, and a repulsor. And the directional jets look a little similar to the a couple of the accessories from Orbital Interceptor, but they're clearly different molds. And okay, the colors for this set are white, gray, and purple. And as for the solar panels, well, I'm glad that Jake is environmentally friendly when he's fighting the forces of Doc Terror.
Yeah, Ace. Yeah, this one doesn't have a visor type thing that goes over the helmet. It does have an additional, projectile. It's strange. I would definitely think this is more of a Vic McLeod type thing, because the solar panels kind of make it, it's an interesting choice. I wouldn't say it's bad. I think it's pretty cool, but it's exotic. That's probably the best expression that I would be able to find for it. What's your take on this one?
Well, my take on it is that it would have been a fun toy. I would love to own one. I wish all these things had been released to the stores back in the day. I don't know what else I can say about that, except that, I'm just glad we got to see them in any form.
Right.
And you want to talk about Electrocharger now?
Yes, so let's move on to Rex and John, who are the Season 2 additions to the Centurions team. We're not going to really discuss the characters because we have done that in the previous, actually on the first episode. Let's focus on the weapon system. So, Mark, why don't we start with Electrocharger?
Okay, Electrocharger will be Rex Charger's basic assault weapon system. Okay, let me catch up here. It's the only assault weapon system without a chest pack. It includes 2 quantum thrusters, a photon laser blaster, and a backpack whose swiveling launcher fires a glow-in-the-dark Nighthawk missile. Yes, it had an official name. And it would have been a thing where you could fire the missile in any direction, kind of like with the shark torpedoes from Tidal Blast, only this time the launcher rotated horizontally instead of vertically. And now I have parts of Electrocharger with my Rex Charger prototype. I have the repulsor. I have one of the thrusters. I was hoping to get the whole system. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But still, it's cool to have these things.
It's really cool. What's the story of you getting Rex and the weapon system, or the partial weapon system?
Well, back in the mid-'90s, I was talking to a guy from Kenner about various things, and of course I mentioned my love of Centurions, and he said, "Hey, I have a Rex Charger prototype. Do you want to buy him from me?" And so I did.
That's awesome. Could you share, just to make people envious, including me, how much you paid for the prototype?
Okay. Yeah, the guy said, "Mark, I'll sell it for you for $150 in 3 installments." And I feel a little guilty about never paying the 3rd installment, but not that much.
Oh my. Okay, $100 for a Rex Charger. As a running joke, at least in the I guess in the Centurions group, we sometimes discuss the lonely Rex Charger prototype head that's on eBay, where the seller is trying to get rid of it for $2,000. You got a pretty good deal, my friend. I would say that. So yeah, congratulations.
It would have been a better deal. Paying $10 for the entire system in a box at Kmart. But once again, I'm trying not to cry, so yeah.
Yeah. Please help me clarify something, because I'm again using this really great website by Duke Nostalgia. You hear me name dropping him again and again, and so officially Rex had 2 weapon systems, but honestly, I'm trying to really figure out why I'm seeing 3 different types of weapon systems, because I see one with which is Electrocharger, probably with the figure having a backpack and the cannon and no chest piece. Then I see Gatling guard with which is huge with the chest pack and the hoverboard. But then which one is the third one in the middle, which has the Gatling guard's chest pack, a backpack that resembles electrocharger but has a propeller and missiles? It feels like it's a combination of two, and then we'll probably share these photos. But what's up with this combination / additional weapon system?
This is a good segue to go into talking about Gatling Guard, which will have been an awesome toy if it had been released. I mean, seriously, I think it will have been as legendary among Centurions collectors as the what's the name of that G.I. Joe aircraft carrier?
Flag.
Yeah, I think it will have been as legendary among Centurions collectors as the USS Flag is among G.I. Joe collectors. So anyway, let me get to the my entry in the article. Behold, the mighty Gatling Guard, which will have been the most elaborate toy in the entire Centurions line. Rex uses this massive hovercraft-like assault weapon system to absorb energy from Doc Terror's robot warriors, then release the energy back at them in a Doom Drone devastating blast of power Xtreme. Here's how. Gatling Guard's backpack has a large, rotating glow-in-the-dark energy chamber that fires 4 glow-in-the-dark energy missiles, each of which has a hole through the center. Why? Because Gatling Guard also has a battery-operated light housing whose light shines through the missile as it's moved into firing position, energizing it, then creating an afterburner effect as it's launched. The backpack also had 2 adjustable leg supports that make Gatling Guard look like it's hovering in midair when you move them upwards. The high-tech fighting machine also comes with a chest pack, a dual rifle, a reflector, 2 extension bombs, 2 current knobs, and a platform for Rex to stand on. Okay, and Yuri, this is when this thing you were just talking about comes into play. You can also create a mini assault weapon system from Gatling Guard by using the light housing as a backpack and the platform as a propeller.
Oh wow! So actually, it's not a combination of the two, but it's simply a Gatling Guard's lighter configuration.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the propeller is actually the platform, and he's just using it as a propeller instead of standing on it.
But does it spin? It doesn't spin, right?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think it would have because it's attached to the light housing, which, as far as I know, doesn't have a spinning mechanism built in. But, that would be a good question for whoever designed this thing.
Do you know if Alton's was involved?
I don't know, but I'd love to ask him. Okay, one more thing about Gatling Guard. The Kenner catalog suggested alternate uses for the light housing. Rex Charger can light the way for the other Centurions hero figures or send secret coded messages with the light button. So you can have them using some kind of Morse code to communicate with the other Centurions without talking. I mean, it's actually pretty clever, all the thought that the Kenner people put into these things, which to me makes it even sadder that they were never released.
Right. A few thoughts to add is that one fun fact is that in the catalog photo, actually, it's not Rex who's being modeled with Gatling Guard, but supposedly a repainted Max.
Yeah, what they did was they took Max's body, put Rex's head on it, and then painted Max's exoframe in Rex's color scheme.
Which is interesting because even you have a prototype, so at least one prototype existed, and one prototype is enough to have these photos made. So it's interesting why they didn't use that with the figure.
There are at least 2 prototypes because other people have them, maybe at least 3. I mean, I've heard there might be 200 of them. I mean, who knows how many of them still exist. But, yeah, there was a complete version of Max as he appeared on the TV show. I don't know why they didn't use him in the Gatling Guard toy photos from the Kenner catalog. Maybe they were just scrambling to get this thing ready in time for Toy Fair, and they just didn't have the time. That's my speculation, anyway.
Gotcha. Do you actually have any info on how many prototypes might have been produced either from Rex or John? Is there any number out there?
No, just speculation. I know that they have to produce a certain amount, not just for display at Toy Fair and in the catalogs, but testing them for safety and for paint schemes and all that stuff. And then there are the experiments like the Max prototype where they put a chrome paint scheme, a vacuumized chroming on his exo frame, I guess, just to see how that would look.
Right. It's interesting also to point out based on this that if you look at the toy catalog image of Gatling guard, it not only features the repainted and head swapped Max, which by the way is painted with glow in the dark paint, so actually the photo shows how it looks in the dark as well. But it also features the power pack, and if you look at the photo, this kind of looks weird in the catalog because with the power pack added, of course it would have been cool to have the whole weapon system rotate those kind of Gatling laser type weapons, but also it prevented the that, what do you call them, the cockpit window,
the canopy,
canopy to completely close. So in the photo you see that the canopy is open because it cannot close. So I don't know why in the toy catalog they opted to have the photo displayed with a power pack, but which prevented the figure from properly showing off its default layout.
Well, they really should have put it on the chest of the figure, in my opinion. That's what made it look a little better. But yeah, they just wanted to show that, hey, any of these new assault weapon systems can work with the power pack. And I guess that was going to be a major part of Cairns Promotions from 1987, that, we have this cool new little toy that'll energize any of the other toys, and buy it.
Yeah, just one quick thing. So the laser basically was just like a flashlight with a button to activate it, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So just to be mindful of the time. By the way, the only extra thing I wanted to mention is that apparently for season 2, Kenner was really going for not only expanding the line but introducing cheaper accessory packs and this really large weapon system that I assume would have had a premium price to it because it's massive. So the designers really had faith in the toy line becoming popular, and it did, but unfortunately not enough to have the toys go on. Hey guys, we just realized that we are really running out of time and probably should split these topics into 2. How about that, Mark? What if we continue next week?
Well, we both love the sound of our own voices, so yeah, I'm up for that.
Okay, awesome. So guys, we'll just split the recording into 2 and continue recording the topic of the prototypes and unproduced toys. So we hope that you enjoyed this kind of longish discussion. So Mark, let's wrap up the show. You have the honors, and we'll come back continuing this episode next week.
Yes, Centurions fans, return next week for even more thrilling Power Xtreme!